Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with comedian Taylor Ruddle. He's out of New Zealand. Super sweet guy. I like him a lot. I've been on his podcast, and now he comes on mine, and the conversation just flows with this guy. I mean, oh, it just I don't know. He's very easy to talk to. But yeah, check out his YouTube. He does stand up, and definitely worth checking out. Quick shout out to the sponsor, Flavors of the Forest, raw garlic dust. Get yourself some. You're not gonna find anything better. I can guarantee you this shit tastes way better than anything you're gonna get at the store. So head on over to flavorsforest.com and you can find all all your heart's desires of garlic dust. They have a couple different flavors: lion's mane, horseradish, ginger, cranberry, um, and lion's. Did I already say lion's mane? I think I already said lion's mane. But either way, and then they also have a spicy one, and obviously the OG, just garlic. I put it on everything. You won't be disappointed. Trust me. Um, all right. With that being said, if you like today's episode, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the show. Um, and if your podcatcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, you can definitely leave one at on the on the website where the weird ones are podcast.com. That is also where you can get hot sauce, t-shirts, coffee, and some protein. I do have whey protein up there on the website. Got a lot of big things coming. I'm gonna start paranormal investigating soon. Um, Gonna be headed out to Tennessee soon. Um, 40 Fest here in Sanford, Maine is gonna be popping off in May. I believe it's May 17th. But again, I will have more details once I sign up. Because I know it's happening. I just I still need to sign up for it. But if you're in the main area, I will definitely be there. So um yeah, selling some t-shirts, hot sauce and shit. So um Weird Java in the morning, every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. EST Eastern. I don't know why said EST. It just Eastern's fine. 8 a.m. Central, obviously, whatever time zone you're in, you can figure it out from there. But it's live on the YouTube channel where the Weird Ones Are YouTube channel. So if you want to check out any of the old episodes, you just click on the live section, and all the Weird Java in the mornings will be there. So Weird Java is my coffee company, and I decided to create a morning show, not only to help promote the coffee, but to do something fun and a little different. We do This Day in History. Um, we do a Florida Man segment, movie quote segment. David does a creepy video of the week. Sometimes I haven't in the past couple episodes, but we do TikTok, cringy and hilarious TikTok videos. Also, we teamed up with the hell, Like Mother, Like Murder podcast. The ladies are Rachel and Heather. Lovely ladies, love them to death. Cannot stop talking about how much I love these two. They do a missing person segment for us and to bring awareness to missing persons cases in the hopes to bring them home. I mean, I'm not saying the morning show gets the thousands and thousands of views, but something is better than nothing, and I think people deserve to be home with their loved ones. You know, I think it sucks when somebody goes missing and you don't know what happened. So yeah, so yeah, and if somebody comes across the show and they watch it and they see it and then they like, wait a second, I seen that person, something like that. Maybe, not saying that, I'm personally that we're personally bringing people home. I'm just saying it's something that helps, and I care a lot about people, um, even though I don't at the same time, if that makes sense. Um, So I will say too, here in the U.S., if you are experiencing any kind of mental distress, please dial 988. That is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. So if you need somebody to talk to, they are equipped to do so. Um, and I do believe it's 24/7. So anytime, anytime, anywhere, give them a holler and just stay another day, you can quit when I quit, and I'm not gonna quit. I did try to quit, but I'm not gonna. So um you just don't know the hole that you're gonna leave behind. So anyways, I think that just about covers it. Taylor and I, we talk about reincarnation, like his thoughts and theories, and he does share a pretty spooky experience. And even if it's not a ghost, if it's a real person, it's still fucking creepy. Okay? I don't care what anybody says, it's still creepy. It took place over in Japan. Um, and he experienced it with his ex-girlfriend. So, yeah, man. All right. Well, I'll stop talking at you for now. I hope you enjoy the show. Again, likes, follows, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews help out a lot, and it's a free way to do so. If you're interested in the Patreon, I stopped doing story time as an extra segment, just because it's a lot of work to put something like that together. But you do get early access to the show, ad free, and you get a free coffee mug, and it's like $5 a month. Just I don't, it's $5 a month. It's pretty inexpensive, but you obviously you don't have to. You don't have to jump on it. You don't have to go over there. I'm not begging you to do so. Just if you're interested, you know, you get you get ad free. You don't even get the intro or anything. It's just straight to the conversation. And yeah. So the money that I get from the Patreon is gonna go obviously back into this shit. Updating microphones and whatnot. I know there's a lot of stuff out there that can help me make this experience a little bit better. So that's what I'm gonna use that for. Um, but anywho, if you're yeah, all right. So I done rambled far too long. So thanks for being here. Well, let's get into the conversation with Mr. Taylor Ruddle.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
Hello, we are Rachel and Heather, the hosts of Like Mother Like Murder podcast.
And you're listening to Kevin on Where the Weird Ones Are.
Oh.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. So happy to have you here. Today we have Taylor Lautner with us. No, I'm just kidding. We have Taylor Ruddle from Ruddle Me This podcast. He's also a stand-up comedian out of New Zealand. But Taylor, if you don't mind letting the good people know well, maybe not people, maybe person, because I believe I only have one listener. No, I'm just kidding. But if you don't mind letting everybody know a little bit about your podcast and where they can find you and the show, man.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's great to talk to you again, Kevin. I think I've got some follow-up questions, the stuff that we discussed on my podcast that you're on. So keen to hear what you've been up to. But yeah, no, so I am a stand-up comedian based in New Zealand, and I've been weirdly embraced by the paranormal community, because I'm into ghosts and paranormal and scary stories and that kind of thing. And I sort of weirdly took the inspiration from Chris Jericho, the wrestler. He would do episodes of his podcast where he would bring like a UFO person on or paranormal investigators. And so I just started running kind of episodes like that every now and then on mine. And I got to tell you, the paranormal community is very welcoming. So I've sort of been very much embraced by everyone, and I've been making appearances on paranormal podcasts here and there, and I've had them as a guest on mine. And so I'm not complaining. I'm just kind of rolling with it, and here we are. So yeah, great to be on the show. It's cool to do it on the other side because you were on mine as a guest before.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think the conversation was really good. I mean, we probably could have ended up talking, at least from my perspective, for like another hour, but
Easily.
I think we only covered like 2 tiny little joys, and you normally do like 5.
That's right.
So,
But it depends on some of them you just get so much out of the single
Mhm.
prompt, and I think
That's
we
true.
got into some quite sort of deep topics. I think, do you have this stereotype in America where you have these deep chats at a party around these it's a very particular type of glass table that you sit around in the backyard? Maybe there's a fire going, or maybe there's not a fire going. But is that a stereotype over there, or a sort of trope that you experience in the States?
Yeah, I feel like so, yeah. It's
Yeah.
always at a party, and it's always 2
Mhm.
random people sitting somewhere else,
Yeah.
and while the party's going on, and they're carrying on in this deep conversation, and sometimes a 3rd or 4th person will stumble onto the conversation and be
Yeah.
like, "What?" And then it'll become a group chat, you know?
Yep.
It's,
Yep.
I've definitely been a part of some of those, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I consider myself a deep thinker in a way.
Yeah. I would agree
But
there. Yeah.
yeah,
I had
it's
I
it's a bit. Go ahead.
I think since our last podcast, I had an experience of we were talking about the simpler things. Did we talk about
Mhm.
sitting around a fire at a party?
We actually did talk about
We did
fire.
talk about this.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
it's something about the sort of rhythmic pulsating kind of fire. Yeah, just something about that. Like I think we also talked about watching the ocean as well. That's another really sort of
Mhm.
soothing human experience. So, yeah.
It's the funny thing is too, is that right after I did your show, and we had this, a good segue about, just watching water,
Mhm.
whether it's a river, ocean, just flowing and stuff. I came across a video on Instagram. I shared it in my story a couple weeks ago, and it was literally saying that watching water decreases depression.
I believe it. Yeah.
And I mean, they went into like this whole clinical thing about it, and I can't remember it now, but
Yeah.
that's basically the gist of it,
Yeah.
was that it
No, I
just
would
it
believe it.
decreases it decreases the depression. And I was like, no wonder why I love watching water.
Yeah. I find the idea of meditation so fascinating as well because I was watching a GQ 10 Essentials video years ago, and Machine Gun Kelly was talking about how he can't meditate, but he finds, like shaving with a traditional, just like the one razor, you know what I'm talking about, a straight
Mhm.
razor? He
Yeah.
finds that almost meditative. And I think there's something in that when your hands are kept busy and your sort of mind is free to kind of just wander or whatever. I find that phenomenon so fascinating. Like I've had some of my best ideas for stand up when I've been on a cross trainer at the gym, and I think it's just because my limbs are all busy, so my mind is kind of free to go where it wants to go.
Yeah. Yeah. That that's where I feel like that's where I end up crying sometimes, because I've cried at the gym before a few
Oh, me
times.
too, buddy.
It's been like,
That's just
well,
because I don't want to go there.
right, right. I don't. I mean, there's days that I don't want to go, and I make myself, and
Mm.
I'm just like, but apparently we hold trauma, and everybody, most people hold trauma in their hips. And a lot of people will hold it in their neck and shoulder
Mm-hmm.
area. So when you're working on those areas, whatever area you're holding the trauma in,
Mm-hmm.
it like sometimes it'll just release, and like all of a sudden out of nowhere this emotion will come pouring out of you. So
Really?
the first time it ever happened to me, I was running on the treadmill, and it was like I was on there for like 30-40 minutes. I was running really fast, and then I'd walk, and then like a light jog, and then I'd do a sprint, and then I'd walk again. And like I was in the middle of a sprint, and I just all of a sudden my eyes started watering, and I literally started
Wow.
ugly crying to the point where I was embarrassed that I had to leave.
Wow.
Um, and
And
that happened like right after my uncle passed away. So I was almost like
yeah,
wondering if that also was a contributing factor, and I just happened
yeah.
to release something.
That's so fascinating that you say people carry tension in their hips because I've seen a device you can buy. A lot of wrestlers have started using it, and I think have you seen those ones? Um, it's sort of like a circle, like a hip circle. They put it around their hips, and then you can do certain workouts and stuff like that. Because apparently, like we're saying, sitting just off the podcast before, we were talking about sitting being the worst thing for you. Wrestlers have found that, like they wrestle, and then they get on a plane or they get into a rental car and they're straight forced into like sitting, and so that's terrible for you. And they've been using these hip circle things, but there's also this device. It's so hard to explain. Like, you know what a plug socket looks like? It's kind of that two prong sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that, but it's made out of foam and it's quite wide. And if you place it on the ground and you sort of lie down, you can dig your hips into the two sort of prongs. And apparently, people
Oh,
experience these really, really emotional releases. It's probably agony for the first few times you're doing it, but
yep,
apparently,
totally.
after a certain point, the endorphins just release, and so that's really fascinating. I wonder why the hip muscles specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to dig more into that. I've just,
Yeah.
I've always heard that, my Reiki healer and then a massage therapist that I had a long time ago, because I've only gotten one massage, and she's like, you have a lot of tension in your hips and your glutes, and like we need to work on that next. And I was
Yeah.
like, in my head, I'm like, she wants to rub my butt. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. She might have been
So I
trying to
never
come
went
fresh with
back.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
You did the right thing, I think.
I think so too.
I
But
always have a
I w-
tiny bit of skepticism when, like, when a therapist or a massage therapist, they talk about how many issues you've got, and you think, well, yeah, your livelihood rests on me having, a lot of things we need to work through. So you have to take that with a grain of salt, I think.
absolutely, I agree with that 110%. Oh my God. Yeah, have you do you so real quick, do you believe
Yeah.
in um what the frick is the word? Not resurrection, reincarnation. Do you believe in
Oh, that's an
reincarnation?
interesting one. Yeah, I would say I think I do. Um, if, probably coming from the fact that you know how we get deja vu, and you have kind of these dreams
Yes.
sometimes where you think you're maybe seeing like a past life or experiences. So yeah, I think I'm not super into like a lot of spiritual stuff, but I think yeah, I would like to believe that we do get reincarnated. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um just kind of like rolling off the same topic with the trauma, the
Yeah.
holding trauma in our bodies.
Mhm.
So apparently I did this like past life regression if if it's a real thing anyway.
Yeah.
So apparently I was this like really old dude with this huge beard. I look almost like a wizard, but I was betrayed by some king or something, and they thought that
Wow.
I murdered somebody, so they murdered me and they stabbed me in the chest. So it was like, so when I was talking to her about this, she went through there was a couple handful of lives that she went through.
Mm.
And there was one time, I think it was last year, I was at the gym and I was bench pressing. And I was like literally in the middle of pushing it off of my chest. And I just started crying again. And I did that ugly, like it was uncontrollable. Like I almost like
Mhm.
couldn't finish the push out um, to re-rack it and everything.
Mm.
And I almost wonder if that, like, because that happened before I did the regression, but I didn't tell her that it had happened, so she didn't
Mm.
know. So
Yeah.
I almost wonder if that has something to do with it, because I know, like, if reincarnation is a real thing, we're supposed to learn something from each life. And if
Yeah.
we hadn't learned something from the thing that we're supposed to learn, we carry it through each life until we learn.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's what the idea is appealing to me about. Have you read the short story called The Egg?
No, I have not.
So the egg is essentially I think it's a sort of it's fiction, I think, but the idea is that every single person on Earth is the same soul but reincarnated as a different person, and the idea is
Mm,
that like what you say, every time the egg goes through a life, they experience that life, and so one of the the person, I think they meet God or something when they I'm struggling to remember the exact setup of it, but it was like someone died and then they sort of met our maker or whatever, and then before they were got reincarnated to a new body, they were kind of told what was happening, which they would forget each time they were reincarnated. And one of them, one of the lines I remember from it was saying, so the same soul was both Hitler and then all the people from the Holocaust. And it's that idea that this soul needs to experience like every possible kind of life, and then it will kind of become God or kind of go on to its next thing. So yeah, I think I like to think that that is a purpose for reincarnation. So I think I'm with you there.
yeah, yeah. It's yeah, because I mean, both times I was just like, "What the hell's happening to me?"
Mm.
You know.
Right in the
But
chest as well. Yeah.
yeah, I think I do. I think I believe in reincarnation. Um, Sometimes I hope that it's not a thing.
Mm.
Just because I don't want to come back here
Mm.
sometimes. But then there's other times where I'm like, yeah, it'd be great to come back. But I want to
Mm.
I want to come back and have the memory of me too.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
won't. That's the problem.
yeah. So are you any religious kind of any sort of denomination of religious?
No. I
Mm.
mean, I think I want to say that I was baptized as a baby, but
Mhm.
I don't think I was 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know that I have a godfather, but that could just mean that he was supposed to be and then it never happened.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I think it can just be
you
a sort of
know,
ceremonial position. Um,
yeah.
do you have any thoughts about what happens after someone dies?
Yeah, I don't have like 100% concrete where I'm
Mm.
like, this is exactly what I believe. Like
Mm-hmm.
my opinions and my beliefs shift and change pretty
Mm.
consistently. And, I do believe in God. I think that I might be more Christian than anything, not
Mm-hmm.
saying that like I am 100%, but I
Yeah.
do believe that, something is happening spiritually with me and my kids to where both my kids all of a sudden are believe in God. And my
Mm-hmm.
son even like created a TikTok talking about how he believes in, like, he quotes scripture in his TikTok and stuff, just like
Wow.
scripture quotes and stuff. And it's like
Yeah.
completely random out of nowhere,
Mm.
because I didn't raise them religious. I wasn't raised religious.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my mom, my mom would talk about God sometimes, but um, I never really discussed it with my kids. So the fact that they're asking for Bibles and stuff like that at
That is
16 and
interesting. Yeah.
13 is
Yeah.
pretty, pretty weird.
That is
I
interesting.
I
Yeah.
feel like, so if God is real, he's realizes the best way to get my attention is through the things that I care the most about, which are my kids.
Yeah. That makes sense. I could see that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. So on this, I say all that to say this. I'm not sure what happens to us when we pass. I do believe
Mm.
that some of us may become ghosts. I do
Mm-hmm.
believe if we are, I guess, like assholes in life, we could possibly become a negative entity.
Mm.
I'm not sure if all negative entities are demonic, but sometimes I think that a negative entity is just an ass asshole ghost. I got somebody
Yeah.
fucking that was a dick frickin' in life, is
Yeah.
being a dick in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Um, I
The one
like to
that the
think
one
it as
that's
like the others. The others would be interesting. You know,
what is the other? Sorry.
the movie The Others with Nicole Kidman.
Oh, I think I watched that when I was a very small child. Is that the idea that people need to cross over after they die?
I think so. I think they talk about it at the end, but
Yeah.
basically the whole movie, she thinks that she's alive. Her and her kids
Mm-hmm.
are alive.
Yeah.
And that the living people moving into the house are the ghosts.
Yeah.
So, and then by
Yeah.
the end you find out that her and her kids are dead and that they're actually the
Ah.
ghosts.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, I think with ghosts, I've always liked the idea that the reason they get stuck behind is because they have unfinished business, and
mhm.
which I'm very curious because it's just talking about this idea of acceptance and whether you can accept your own death or something like that is I think a reason that a lot of ghosts maybe that's why they kind of stick around. Um, and yeah, the yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just like when you're going through your own death, right? It's like what
Mhm.
let's like at what point does the Sopranos ending how the screen just goes black? Like is that what you experience or after your body is done, does your sort of I don't know soul or whatever do you keep does it keep kind of recording tape or whatever it is? I just that's the existential thought where I just can't imagine what it's like to experience dying. It's like, does everything just flick off and then you're done? But we've never known anything except for being sort of cognizant. I guess we know falling asleep is kind of is probably the closest thing to it. But yeah, I just can't wrap my head around what it is like to just be done.
Yeah. That's interesting too, because when I was little, I used to lay in bed at night and think about death, which is really weird.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
grim, eh?
yeah, I mean, I did make 2 attempts on my own life when I was a
Oh
child,
right,
so
when you're a child.
yeah, I was the first time was 9, the second time I was 13.
Wow.
Um, so sometimes I wonder, I can't remember exactly when I started thinking about it a lot, if it was
Yeah.
after I tried or if it was before I tried,
Mm.
but when I really started doing this, but what happened was that I would get in bed at night sometimes and I would lay there and I just go, "This is what death is like." And then I close my
Yeah.
eyes and I'll like just black, but and then I'll tell myself, but I can't feel anything like my
Yeah.
body or anything. And then I'd start crying. And then my mom would come in and tell me that everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
When I pass away, I'm gonna see God and I'll be with God in heaven and stuff. And my mom never practiced religion either, neither did my grandparents, her parents. Um, so when being at like 9, 10 years old when she's first saying it, talking
Mm.
about God to me felt weird, I guess.
Yeah.
And I didn't believe her.
Yeah. It's I now that you say that when to comfort a small child by saying no, when you die, your family's going to be there and God's going to be there and stuff, is I'm like, oh, I really understand the appeal of thinking of heaven, because now it's not as it's not over. It's like you're going to be with the people that you love, and so
Mhm.
I understand that a lot better now, just from hearing the contrast of like how to make someone feel better about it. So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Um but anyway, so
Hmm.
there's this one question that I really wanted to ask you
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what made you want to become a stand-up comedian? Like
Oh
what
yeah.
was that process like?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, did you ever play the Grand Theft Auto games when you were a child or younger?
Oh yes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, do you remember how
When
in
they
the
were a sky view. Remember
yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, and then how mind blowing it was to see number 3 when it's 3D. You're like, how have they done that? What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you remember how in the games you had radio that you could listen to, and it was like sort of fake radio, but it seemed real.
Yes.
So the guy who created that is a sort of audio engineer called Laszlo Jones, and
Mm.
when I was a student, a friend of mine downloaded a bunch of those fake radio clips because they were genuinely quite funny. And I think it was what is that New York station? Is it K Rock? Is that the big New York rock and roll station?
Think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had him on a late night radio show called the Laszlo Show, and it was from like 11 p.m. until I don't know 1 in the morning or something. It was great, and so we started listening to that, and it was really funny. And he had stand-up comedians that would just come in and talk for a bit, and he was sort of friends or associated with another radio show called Opie and Anthony, which I imagine you'd probably know who they are, given you're from the States, right?
I actually don't.
Oh, interesting. So you would
I
know
think
who?
I've heard the name before, but
Yeah,
I can't think of who they are.
yeah. So you would know who Howard Stern is, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so like right after Howard Stern, they were probably the biggest sort of comedy, like shock jock radio station in the States. And they have a third guy on their show called Jim Norton, who's a stand up comedian. And so through that sort of chain of events, we discovered Jim Norton and we started watching his comedy specials. And then, like, you get introduced to like Colin Quinn, Bill Burr, like a whole bunch of other New York ones. And so a bunch of us sort of just became fans of stand up through that when we were probably like 19 or 20. And then randomly, so I didn't even know you could do open mics or anything in New Zealand. And Had I known, I probably would have gone along to one, but I didn't really know sort of even where to begin looking for that sort of thing. And just by chance, I moved to Japan when I was 22, and then I saw a post on a local, like the city's Reddit page. It was asking if anybody was interested in doing stand-up comedy because a friend of, well, he's now a friend of mine, but he was studying at the university in sort of an exchange program from like Oxford or some UK university, and he'd done a couple of years of stand-up there, and he wanted to keep it going. So we sort of started the scene in a city called Fukuoka, which is in the south of Japan. And we did that. I kind of just got up. I wrote a bunch of jokes that I thought were funny. It went all right. The first set was probably about 75% good. And then we did a showcase sort of every month for the next kind of 3 years, and that was when all my visas and stuff ran out, so I had to come back to New Zealand. So I started. The first time went well. Second time went really well, and usually I think when people start stand up, how well the first couple of gigs go is what determines whether they're going to stick with it or not. And mine just happened to go pretty well, and I've been pretty lucky. I could probably count on two hands the amount of times I've really bombed. The times I've been doing stand up, so I've been very lucky. And I think because of that, I just sort of never stopped. Like it's coming up on. I think I just hit 10 years this February, so it's gone by in the blink of an eye, I tell you. But yeah, that's kind of that's how I sort of got into it. It was all from GTA.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think what the frick I think it was Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
Yes. They had Ricky Gervais. Like you could walk
Oh
into
yeah.
the
Yeah.
theater and Ricky Gervais is like this was like I didn't know Ricky Gervais when the
Uh-huh.
first time I saw the scenes and stuff because you
Yeah.
would do like one of those stupid side missions
Yeah.
and you would end up in the theater and then you'd just be sitting there watching this comedy show and it was like literally like you're watching a comedy show. I'm like, what
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
happening right now? And it was pretty funny. And
Love
then
it.
come to find out, like he was a pretty well-known
Yes.
comedian, so it's
Yeah.
pretty dope. It's
Yeah,
pretty
he
dope.
was initially known for writing The Office, which was a UK show, which then got adapted, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the American one went for about 10 more seasons than the British one did, and
Yeah.
yeah, it really took off. So, yeah, no, I imagine he's done very well financially out of all of that.
Yeah,
Have
I'm
you ever
sure.
done any live podcasts or any sort of stage, anything like that? And if not, do you feel like you would enjoy doing it, or are you pretty happy being behind the mic?
So I will say um, that I used to be really introverted. So like being extroverted has been something new for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have done 2 speaking events
Cool.
and it feels pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, if I've thought about it about, putting like a 15-minute stand up thing, but I don't know if I have like that like I think I'm funny, but like to be funny on stage is a different thing, you know what I mean? Like being
Mm.
funny amongst your friends and stuff is completely different. And being funny for a
Yeah.
bunch of people that have no idea who you are
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
is
You're essentially
totally different.
you're trying to make humor out of a sort of a complete blank slate, right? Like it's a
Mhm.
vacuum. Um, I mean, I do believe it's a skill that anybody can learn. I don't think you have to be special to do it. What were the
Right.
speaking events? I'm very curious about those.
So they were both like paranormal cryptid events
Cool.
and I got asked to speak there. So I talked about like main cryptids and stuff and some of my personal paranormal experiences.
Awesome.
And that was pretty much it. Like the
Yeah.
first one that I did I was outside speaking and it was a pretty popular event. Like there was
Yeah.
people everywhere. and there had to have been like somewheres around 50 or so people just that sat down and stared
Yeah.
at my face while I was talking. It was really weird, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like it felt kind of cool to
Do you
be
think
able
they
to
know who
talk
you
to
were
so
before?
many. There was a handful of them. Not a handful. There was like two people, I should say, that I know for sure knew who I was.
Yeah.
Just because one was this woman Carrie. So shout out Carrie.
Shout
She
out Kerry.
is blanking on her Instagram handle. It's previously possessed. She refurbishes old furniture like chairs and just a bunch of furniture and stuff and
Mhm.
resells it. So and she's in Massachusetts and she's been listening to the show for a while. And she's such a sweetheart of a lady too.
Hell
And
yeah.
she came out to support me. Basically, she came out,
That's great.
um watched me speak. She, checked out all the other vendors. I think she went away with some stuff, but
Nice.
um I wanted to get a picture with her, but I didn't get the chance to. So hopefully the event will run again this year.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, that's
so
cool, man.
if anybody else knew who I was, I don't know if they did.
Yeah. Have you ran into any listeners sort of in the wild before? Like of
I
your
have,
podcast, I mean?
as of yet, I have not. No.
Well, if you see Kevin out there, go and say hello to him. We need to make that
Yeah.
happen. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen often for me either, but I
Yeah.
do
I was
get
gonna.
it's. You go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I keep going to.
No, it's okay.
I don't mean to. But I was just gonna say that I was ended up saying something, asking my boss if he thought that our building was haunted because we had two people pass away at work
Yeah.
within a year of each other, and he started he's like, oh, I've never witnessed anything here, but and then he started talking about how him and his wife go out when they go to buy a house, that if his wife thinks it's haunted at all, he's not allowed to buy it. And I go, oh wow, that's interesting. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I was like, I'm sorry, I just love talking about this stuff. I have a podcast where I talk about this. He goes, yeah, I know, I listen to it. I was like,
Hell
oh.
yeah. That's awesome. I love it when that happens. I've had the one thing I've found is meeting listeners in real life tends to keep sort of keep the dream alive a little bit. Like I've had people come out to stand-up shows and I've gone to plug the podcast to them afterwards and they go, yeah, I know, I'm a listener. And you're like, oh, really? Awesome. And so like that, when you're having the lows, because I mean, podcasting, right? I'm sure you've experienced the highs and the lows, but that
Yeah.
definitely, that sends you back into a high afterwards. So it was nice to meet people that listen, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it is pretty cool. Um, there's another guy that works out back. He was randomly like, I have no idea. I've never had a conversation with him or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was filling out my end of the day paperwork really quick. Just it takes like 2 seconds to do it.
Yeah.
And I was turned around to the punch out thing to punch out on the time clock, and he was walking by. And he goes, "Hey, what's up, man?" I was like, "Hey." And he's like, "Love the podcast, by the way." He goes, "I just finished all of them." And I was like, "What?"
Wow. That's amazing.
He's like, "Yeah, it's really great." He goes, "Keep it up." And I'm like, "Oh, all right."
That's great.
So that was pretty cool.
I love it.
I will say there is a lady, she started working there not too long ago. I don't know exactly what her job title is, but I know she, like, when we need new work gear, like boots and, our uniform and stuff like
Yeah.
that, we go to her, and she
Yeah.
deals with a lot of our, like, the truckers' paperworks and stuff like that. Um, and when she first started, she did a ride along just with me just to see what the job is like,
Yeah.
and for us anyway. And we got to talking. I mean, we were together in the truck for like 2 hours. Um, and I started telling her about my podcast and stuff,
Yeah.
and she got really excited. She's like, "Oh, I've been on paranormal and like tours and stuff like that,
Cool.
and we've got into this big conversation about ghosts and stuff. And now I'm pretty sure she listens to it, but I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure. But I think she's the reason why a lot of people at my work listen because she talks to
Cool.
everybody, and I
Love
feel
it.
like she tells everybody about my
Yeah.
podcast.
Oh, that's dope.
And her name's
I thought
Tracy, and I love her very much. So if she is listening, Tracy, thank you so much
shout out Tracy holding it down.
being such an amazing person.
Couldn't do it without you, Tracy. I thought you were going to say when you got into the ride along, you put on your podcast and you just listened to it with her in the car. I've definitely done that to people as a gag. Like we've got in the car and I've just put on my podcast and not addressed it. I love doing that to people.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
like singers and stuff. So they just put on
Yes.
their own song when they get in, just to
100%.
see the reaction out of people.
I had a Christmas get together, like a friend miss. I think it's a very millennial coded activity.
Yep.
When everybody turned up, I just had my comedy special playing on the TV. You know, you try to be nonchalant, like, "Oh, hey guys, how you doing?"
That's awesome. That
I
sounds
meant
like
to ask.
something I would do.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that this is one thing that paranormal people have over comedians is they've got the merch down like straight away. Like I see you've got a T-shirt in the background there. Comedians always talk about wanting to make merch, but they never actually follow through on it. But it seems like paranormal people, they get after it like straight away. So it's, yeah. And I'm currently wearing a T-shirt. Actually, we'll see if I can get this on camera because it's vaguely sort of spooky. It's a hand with a microphone coming up out of the ground and a gravestone, and it says "Been dying since day one" around it. Not exactly paranormal, but yeah, people seem to like it.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was designed by me.
That's nice, man. That was actually a design that I considered something like that. That I considered doing for a logo, and I actually hired a gentleman out of the UK, because the whole point was, so I was gonna have, the name of the podcast on the grave, on the tombstone, with
That's
the hand
cool.
coming out of the ground with a microphone in his hand.
Yeah.
And it took him like 2-3 months before he got back to me, to where I ended up already making this and just running with it.
Yeah, no,
And
I think your logo is very fresh. Yeah.
thanks, man. But he sent me what he got, and it seemed, I don't know, for a graphic designer, it just seemed too simple to me, and I was just like, eh. I mean, I already paid him anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But
That's
it
tough
is what
though.
it is.
Taking 3 months to do that, and then it not be. Yeah, that's feels like he might have been not the best, not the best designer to work with there. That's a long time in between first version and getting paid. That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you do all of your designs for your coffee company?
Yeah. So my friend Alicia did all that for
Nice.
the coffee, and then my friend Emily did the hot sauce designs.
Yeah.
And then Alicia did my murder juice design for the hot sauce. So that's the half naked ghost girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
One, if you
Oh,
ever
that's
saw
great.
that one. But yeah, it's
I
right here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in this light.
It's a wee bit pixelated on my end, so
Yeah.
that's all right. I'll Google it after the show. Hot sauce is an interesting one. It's suddenly it's almost like craft beers, right? It's very popular to make a hot sauce nowadays, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, there's conventions for it, fairs for it, and
Really?
all that stuff. Yeah, especially, at least in my neck of the woods, there is.
Yeah.
They have chili eating contests and stuff
Yeah,
at
yeah.
these festivals and stuff. And there's a brewery in Hampton, in New Hampshire, which is like a beach community, and they have this hot sauce festival. So they have, people surrounding the building set up with their own hot sauces, and some of them have
Cool.
like this. It's really weird. Well, I mean, not weird, but it's cool. So you get to drink beer and then taste some hot sauce, and then you get to
Wow.
watch people see how many ghost peppers they can eat in one sitting and how many people quit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's wicked entertaining.
Do they give you any sort of food to taste with the hot sauce, or is it just like a little, not a spoonful, but just a little little dab of it?
Some of them will give you like a cracker or a chip or
Yeah.
something to eat it
Yeah.
with. But a lot of them, it was just like this little like plastic throwaway spoon.
Uh-huh.
Like it was just like it looked like a tab that you put in
Yeah.
the garden things, the starter garden things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you dab the hot sauce on it and you lick it off, and then you can just throw it away. But there was this one guy, he had coated walnuts with
Oh, that's
some
cool.
kind of whatever he did with it. I don't know what he did with it, but it
Yeah.
was spicy as hell. I was like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my God. He's like, I get guys coming up here with their girlfriends thinking they're tough, and then they start crying when they eat this walnut. And I just
Oh my
grabbed it and I
god.
ate it. And I was
Yeah.
like, I stared at him. I go, this is really hot. And he goes,
Yeah.
at least you're not crying. And I go,
Yeah.
I want to.
I was gonna say, have you ever thought of doing like a Hot Ones style episode with your hot sauces?
I've thought about it, yeah,
Yeah.
but I would
Weird
need
Ones. That's a
somebody.
great name.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I would have to have them here, but I guess I don't.
Yeah.
I could send whoever I have on. I guess I could just send my hot sauce to.
Yeah.
You
That would
know,
be great. How
but
many do you
yeah,
have in
we
the
did.
line?
I have 5. So the murder juice one I haven't put out yet because it's a
Yeah.
limited edition. It came all the ingredients in it came directly from my garden, and then the rest of
Wow.
them, I get from farms.
Love it.
So there's the blueberry. I go blueberry picking every year, so I
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
blueberries from there, and then I freeze them
Wow.
and stuff. I get a big we get a big box of freaking blueberries for like $30,
Wow. That's pretty
and they
good.
last forever. We put them in our pancakes, our waffles, and now my hot sauce.
Yeah. That's great, man.
You ever had blueberry crisp?
Blueberry crisp. Is that
Yeah.
like a dehydrated or like a snap frozen one?
No, so it's like a cobbler, I guess.
Oh. No, I can't say that I have.
Oh my God, it's so good. The
Yeah.
oatmeal,
Yeah.
the crusted oatmeal, the cinnamon and stuff. It's super yummy. You should
Yeah.
definitely try some.
Yeah,
But
if I see the option to, I will.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll make you some and send. No, actually, I don't think I can send food like that.
I don't think it would last in the I don't think it would
No, I
last
don't think so.
in the mail, eh? I'm
Somebody
currently
will
doing
smell it.
Yeah. I'm currently in the middle of what I think is not a scam, but somebody contacted me on Fiverr asking if I could
Mm-hmm.
send them some. My Fiverr account is a voice acting account, but somebody messaged me asking if I could send 3 packets of a specific type of candy to them in the UK that you can't get. You can only get it in New Zealand. And so we had a little bit of back and forth to verify whether it's real or not, and he sent me the money on PayPal to do it, which is currently clearing, and I've got the parcel sitting on my table. It's all packaged up, ready to go, and it's a public holiday today, so I'm going to mail it probably tomorrow. But I think I'm pretty safe. Normally scammers, they want you to buy like gift cards and stuff, right?
Yeah,
They don't ask you to
and
buy 3 packets of candy.
they won't send you the money first either.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think, knock on wood, I think it's legit. So we'll see.
Awesome.
I've been filming the process, and I'm going to make a YouTube video of it, so that eventually will be available on Taylor Ruddle Comedy's YouTube. If you're listening to this at a later date and you want to check it out.
Dope, man.
Yeah.
So you may have had a paranormal experience in Japan,
Yeah.
if you don't mind
Yeah.
walking us through that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this would have been 2017 or 2018, around then. About 7 years ago now. Wow, where does the time go?
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh, it's scary. So I was just about to leave. It was around the time when my visa had sort of expired, and I moved out of my apartment, and I was staying with my girlfriend at the time. She's a Japanese, Japanese national, and it was probably about 1 or 2 in the morning. We had just I think it was I feel like it was a Friday night because I would have been staying over there, and we're sort of winding down. We didn't have school or work the next day, and she had this cat he was a good looking cat. I think his I was going to say his breed was Ragamuffin, which looks a bit like a rag doll. He was a very fluffy sort of very cute, very fluffy. He has to get haircuts, otherwise he just becomes this big cloud. But his personality was just a pain. he would he wanted attention all the time. I think is what he wanted, and he was called Coco. And he used to wake me up in the middle of the night by smacking me in the face, like just cats do. Not with the claws or anything like that. Just I don't know. I think maybe he wanted me to move over or something. I'm not really sure what he wanted, but he would do that a bit. So I had sort of thought, I'd sort of requested that we could start sort of shutting him downstairs somewhere at night time so that we could, I could get a full night's sleep. And she had a sort of loft style apartment. It was very small. It was probably about the same size as a living room, but because it had that sort of the loft space upstairs, it had a bit of room. And I don't know what those type of doors are called, but they're sort of like they fold up into like a zigzag kind of pattern and you can slide them out again. It was one of those little doors. And I was downstairs just about to sort of shut him in his little area with his bed and food and everything. And then we just heard like this massive boom as like it sounded like someone had hit the front door with kind of like the palm of their hand. And there was just an initial boom, and then I remember looking up at the sort of loft, and my girlfriend was just peeking over the edge of it, looking at me. We're kind of looking at each other like, did we both hear that just now? And then the whacking just like continued and sort of got a bit faster. Like it sounded like someone was just standing there and just hitting the palm of their hand against the door. And what we found the most creepy about it was that they weren't calling out or saying anything. It was just this hammering on the door. And we're sort of looking at each other like, what the hell is this going on? And she lived in a student area. So my first thought was maybe it's a drunk student trying to get back into the wrong apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, well, if you were knocking like that and you thought you were at your friend's place, you'd probably be saying, hey, let me in, or I feel like you'd be calling out or something like that. You wouldn't just be hammering silently on the door. And so she kind of crept down the stairs, and I remember standing in the Japanese houses always have this little sort of area that you take your shoes off in, genkan I think it's called. And I was standing in this spot, and I could see the door was like vibrating from the hits. So it was clear something was actually hitting it on the outside. And I thought, geez, what do we... Should I just open... Because the doors open outwards. So I thought, do I just open it out and, maybe try and hit whoever's on the other side? And then also we considered kind of looking at the... Japanese houses have these intercoms. You can push a button to see who's outside. But in that moment, I almost didn't really want to see what was on the other side. It was, I just, someone's face is right at the camera or something. I just sort of, it was like, we just didn't really, we were kind of looking at like, oh, this is creepy. And again, just silence apart from just this hammering on the door. And it was just, sort of boom, 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 like that kind of speed. And they're really hard hits as well. Like the door was shaking and I could see it moving. And I remember it was the most bizarre feeling standing on one, just thinking, I was standing right next to the door, thinking like there is another person that I can't see, or, I don't know if it was a person or not after the way the story ended, but I just thought it's just this door in between us and what the hell is on the other side of it. And as suddenly as it started, it just stopped. And we didn't hear any voices. We didn't hear any footsteps going away. They had these sort of had these two sets of stairs going up to the second. She was on the second floor, had these 2 sets of stairs going up to the balcony, which were really creaky. You could hear people coming up and down them, and like the outer bit, you could hear people walking around and stuff. We didn't hear anything. And then so I like really gingerly turned on the camera thing to see what was out there, and there was just nothing out there. And so we have no clue what the hell happened there, because we figured we would have heard some sounds from a human. But yeah, it was really, really bizarre. So I don't know if it's paranormal, but it was definitely creepy.
That is creepy.
Yeah.
To be banging on your door repetitively and
silently.
Yeah, I would have been creeped out. You know,
Uh-huh.
because normally when somebody knocks on your door, that's like ding, 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 and then that's
Yeah.
it. And then they stand there and wait for
Friendly.
you to answer. It's not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Holy cow! I would have been scared.
Yeah.
And you're Japan has no guns, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, more or less. I know the police have them, but yeah,
Right.
definitely not considered, like, you know, compared to maybe what people here might have, or in the States for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that's creepy.
I
I
so
was
badly
listening.
want to know what it was. Like, was it like, in what context would someone just be hammering on a door? Even, you know, if it was innocent, like what situation would end
Yeah.
up with someone there? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you regret not turning on
I
the
do. I
camera?
really do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had. I wish I'd had a little more guts.
Yeah. The Japanese culture has like a lot of like paranormal-esque supernatural
They do,
things
yeah.
to it, right? Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
That's
I quite like the there's a great B movie that you can watch if you like horror movies. It's called Dark Tales of Japan, and probably you can find it if you just searched it on YouTube. I think people upload it sporadically.
Mhm.
And it's just these sort of urban myth. I think it's several directors. It might be 5 or 6 directors doing sort of like, it's like an anthology, and it's all tied together by it's a night bus, and there's a sort of, I think it's implied she's a ghost, and she's just sort of sitting next to people that are sitting on it at night, and she asks them, would you like to hear a scary story? And then she tells them a scary story. And you know, it's all like, there's the Spider Woman. There's a really, really good one where the monster can appear out of any sort of crevice in the room. So if there's just a crack or a crevice, this, you know, hand with sharp nails shoots out and grabs you, that sort of thing. And so the original occupant of the room had put masking tape or gaffer tape all over every crevice in the room. And the main guy of that particular story, you know, he's disappeared. The monster got him, obviously. And a friend of his is asked to sort of like move his stuff out and you know, settle the estate, that kind of thing. And he starts to hear this, you know, creepy laughing and see this kind of thing. And his friend had left notes saying it was in the crevices. And so then the main guy starts taping up all the crevices again. It's very, very well done. It's very scary.
Oh shit. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
check that out. What is it called
Yeah.
again?
Dark Tales of Japan.
Dark Tales of Japan.
Yeah, it's
Let me
so
write
good.
that down just in
Yeah,
case
absolutely do
I
that.
mean,
I'm trying to think of what the other ones are.
it sounds like something that I wouldn't forget, but you never know.
Yes, yeah, it almost has a very beige title. I'm trying to think what other stories. There's one about a guy being haunted by the spirit of a sort of a blonde ghost. That one wasn't very scary. The spider one is very good. And then I think there's another very interesting one. You know how a lot of Japanese rooms will have that traditional room that's got the tatami mats and like a little shrine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's a story about that, about how they can sort of pray to the gods to I think the main girl gets cursed by a guy from her office who has a crush on her, but she's rejected him several times, and her parents, or her grandmother and her mother, both sort of pray to this kind of, it's I think it almost looks like a demon almost to sort of help the daughter out. I won't spoil too much if you're going to watch it, but yeah, it's definitely worth watching. They're definitely B movies, but it's one of my favorites.
Nice.
Mm,
That sounds pretty cool. I've always
yeah,
been intrigued by the Japanese culture and stuff. I would love to go over there someday.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
because I've had Gina Black on. She's a paranormal investigator from Florida. She travels everywhere, and everywhere she travels, she at least finds one like kind of ghost tour
Yeah.
um to do, and she did go check out the suicide forest out
Oh
there.
yeah,
Like she's like I didn't like really go in or anything, but like
yeah,
the there's warnings everywhere, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
that's really interesting.
I'm sure
Um,
the those would feel that place probably feels really heavy to go into, eh?
oh, I'm sure. I saw the movie that they made about it. Not I think it was like 2015-ish
Mm-hmm.
area when it came
Yeah.
out. It had the woman from Game of Thrones. I have such a crush on her.
Oh, the one who plays
Like,
Cersei Lannister?
no, I can't even think of
Oh, the
her
Mother of
character name
Dragons?
in Game of Thrones. No, she gets married to um the youngest son of Cersei or whatever.
Oh
When he,
yes, Natalie something. Yeah,
yeah,
the character is Marjorie Tyrell, and I think she's like, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yes, no, she is a very good looking lady for sure.
yes, she played. I think she's in the Hunger Games too.
Ah, of course, yeah, must be.
I think she has
Yeah,
fake tattoos and stuff, and I was like, ooh, she should
yeah.
get tattoos. I'd like that.
That's great. I love the do you know the kappa or the kappa, I think they would call it in Japanese, the sea monster?
No, I
They're a
do not.
they're a fascinating cryptid. They are the sort of I think typically they're depicted as almost like a turtle, like a little bit like the Ninja Turtles, but like a lot smaller.
Uh-huh.
And they have some really odd lore to them. Like they all have the top of their head is concave. You know what I mean? It's like a bowl, and water sits in the bowl. And if the water falls out, they can't move. They get frozen. And so the way you get a kappa or a kappa to leave you alone is they're super honorable. So if you bow to them, they'll always bow back to you. But then the process of bowing, the water falls out of their head and they get frozen. Um, there was also something to do with the fact that they love cucumbers, and you could write somebody's name or you could write your own name on the cucumber and give it to the kappa, and it would either leave you alone or it would go. I don't remember if it was good or bad, but you could do something with a cucumber to a kappa.
Yeah. That's interesting. I actually, now that you say that, I think I remember that in Ninja Turtles 3, where they're
Yeah,
talking about Kappa. But
they
I mean,
probably
obviously they didn't go into the real story of it,
yeah
but they made
they
it
were probably
more
mistaken for
of,
kappa. Yeah,
yeah, for
trying to
sure.
think what else they have. That the kitsune, which is the fox spirit. I think generally they would do the whole pretend to be a human to trick people move.
Uh-huh.
Um, what other Japanese folklore creatures are there? There's the classic. You would have seen like The Ring or The Grudge, those kind of movies.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that is based on. I think it's pronounced like onryo or something like that, which is just the kind of, I
Hmm.
think every culture has like a woman in white kind of spirit, don't they?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so. I think you're right
yeah,
on that.
yeah.
It's
Those are
funny
the
here over in the here in the States.
yeah,
Every state has an area that's like you s- you're traveling on a dark road and you see a woman in white
yeah,
in a white dress, but you can't see her
yeah.
face because of her hair or something, or any some type of woman in a white dress.
Uh huh.
It it's really it's like all over the place over here,
Yeah,
and every single state has at least one story of it.
yeah.
It's really interesting.
I wonder what the root of that is.
Me too.
Like,
Me too.
yeah, like I wonder why we're so. But I saw a great Tumblr post years ago that was just talking about, you know how we're talking about ancestral kind of, reincarnation, that kind of ancestral trauma and everything. Someone
Yep.
had posted, they were saying, why do we find certain characteristics scary? Things like sunken eyes, pale skin, all this, there was a whole list of all these things that we find scary, and it's like, was this some creature that used to like hunt us back in the day, and we're still kind of creeped out by certain features? Or I don't know. I don't know what the root the kind of root cause of all that is. I think probably more logically it's just because they're typically, I think when someone's sick, they they
Yes.
go quite gaunt and sunken eyes, pale, which probably is like, hey, don't get too close to this person because they might get you sick as well.
Yeah, like the Black Death.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. Yeah.
Oh man. Um, what do you think about about cryptids and stuff? Do you think
Oh, I
that
love cryptids.
there's something to them? Like I
Yeah,
listen, there's a lot of them where I'm like, that's bullshit. But then there's a
yeah,
lot of them where I'm like, that could probably be a thing. Like for
yeah.
instance, there's a cryptid here in Maine who is called the Tote Road Shagman. And the only time he's ever been seen is like in the early 1800s or late 1800s, one or the other.
Yeah.
Um, and he has a bear head and moose antlers, and then has like deer legs or something like that.
Oh,
It's
that's
really
so
weird.
creepy.
Yeah, and
And
it's a
he's
logging. A bunch of loggers apparently had seen it throughout like the 1800s, I
yeah.
guess.
He's called the what? The Tote Road Shagman.
The Tote Road Shagman, yeah.
That's so funny because here in New Zealand, a shag is to like have sex with someone, and so
It,
we a lot of my comedian friends and I will jokingly call each other Shagger. So it'll be like, yeah, g'day Shagger. So the Tote Road Shagman. I think I'm gonna start getting myself introduced as the Christchurch Shagman on stage. That's
That's
such a good
fucking
name,
hilarious.
the Shagman. I love it.
The Shagmeister.
The Shagman. That's so good. I love it when words mean different things
Yes. Yes.
in other countries. But that creature sounds creepy, and I think, do you think it could be real, or do you think it was maybe someone with like, they just kind of saw something in the mist, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that one's real at all.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. There's a
Are there any?
few like there's a specter moose that I believe could be real. I think some of the stories are fabricated though.
Yeah.
But I like the first sighting of it was this hunter, and it just seemed like um when he saw it, he was like in awe, like he was
Yeah.
awestruck with it, and like he more felt respect, and it was like white and wispy, like almost like a
Mm.
ghost.
Yeah.
But then it turned into an albino moose later on in years. So like it went from looking majestic and
Yeah.
mysterious to just being an albino moose, a rare albino
Ah.
moose. And
Yeah.
that it would so apparently these hunters caught it and hung it, and from like how you skin and
Yeah.
gut out deer and stuff, so they
Mhm.
hung it that way and slit its throat to let its blood drain.
Oh, wow.
Sorry everybody listening for the
Yeah.
graphic picture there, but so they did that, and then they went and had like a beer or something, and they came back and the moose was gone. And then
Wow.
apparently the moose came across another person, and he saw like the blood dripping from its neck and stuff, and shot at it.
Wow.
And then it charged him, and he dropped his gun and ran into his house. And apparently, this moose picked up the gun and started shooting the house.
I love it. Oh my
Like,
god.
what the?
That's wild.
Like, that story, I feel like is fake. But like
That's like
the way I picture the Spectre moose is kind of just looking like the elf from when they first see the Liv Tyler as the elf in Lord of the Rings,
yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
like this aura around her. Like that's what I
Mhm.
picture the Spectre moose as.
Yeah. It's like that moose is John McClane in Die Hard. You know when he's like, "Now I have a machine gun, ho ho ho." The moose is like, "Now I have a hunting rifle." Oh my god.
Revenge is mine.
That story is so great up until the part where the moose picks the gun up and starts shooting back at them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
I'm like, how did he pull the trigger? Like, doesn't
Yeah,
make
what
any
is
sense.
these all hooves? Yeah, that is fascinating. I another creature that I've been fascinated with. I think is it called a jackalope?
A jackalope. I have,
Yeah,
yeah, I think
I
so.
think it's like a rabbit with moose antlers.
Oh,
And
jackrabbit? Jackrabbit.
oh, is that maybe I'm thinking of something? Is a jackalope? Maybe that's a fruit.
They
Um,
maybe they might call it a jackalope as well, to
yeah.
be honest with you.
But I remember seeing this creature in media and stuff that's like a sort of rabbit with moose antlers, and it's sort of it might be a Native American kind of thing, but I remember there was a kind of mysticism that went along with this whatever this creature was, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I think it almost kind of goes more on like religion than cryptid, but um, yeah, I find that creature fascinating as well.
I think they found um I think they found that to be real.
Really?
I
Oh yeah,
think I
I'm
want to
googling.
say that
Huh. Apparently it is real. Oh no, mythical. The
yeah.
jackalope is a
Okay.
mythical animal of North American folklore, described as a jackrabbit with antelope horns. And then it's got a section on tall tales. So yeah, it
Huh.
seems to be like an old kind of maybe the what was the time of the Wild West? What was that called when they were like settling it? Colonial? No. That kind of, whatever that era is when they were kind of moving, there was like mass immigration to America. Whatever that era is, I think that's kind of when you'd hear the tales of this mystical this mystical rabbit.
The days of the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
exactly when, yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
when everybody's traveling to the west side of the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Frontier is what I'm thinking of, I think. I think that
Yes,
was what it was
the
called. Yeah.
Final Frontier. You're right.
There you
That's
go, yeah.
exactly what it's called.
Is I'm trying to remember if he was. Do you remember the American character Johnny Appleseed? Was that a real thing, or was that like a cartoon that came up with that?
Apparently, he was a real person.
Yeah,
As far as I learned in first grade, he was a real person.
yeah. I
They
love
even
it.
made a movie about him. I
Nice.
think it was like a made for TV movie for kids,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
was that Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan with the big moose into the big ox, right?
Big ox, yeah, the big blue
That's right.
ox.
Blue ox. Was it called Babe?
Babe, yep.
I love it.
And then there was another Western guy. What the hell was his name? Wild Bill or something like
Wild
that.
Bill. That's right. Yeah,
And I can't remember exactly. You know what? I'm gonna have to look into this because I know they made a movie um about it, and Paul Bunyan was played by Oliver Platt,
yeah.
and Wild Bill was Robin Williams, and then there was a third
Nice.
guy I can't remember, but
That's great.
I remember the movie from when I was a kid. And I just cannot think of
Yeah,
what the movie is, and now I want to look it up and check it
yeah,
out. I'll probably have to show my kids and be like, "This is kind of fucking
yeah,
silly things I used to watch when I was a
yeah,
child."
yeah. It's mad. I have friends that have kids now, and who was it? Somebody was trying to show the old version of was like Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast, because they've sort of
Mhm.
remade these ones with 3D graphics and stuff now, and some kids just do not like. To them, it looks ancient. They're like, "What is this old, this old crap?" Like, I'm not interested in this. And I know I've had friends that have tried to show their kids, like, the old Lion King, and the kids like, no, I'm not interested in this. So it's the times change, eh?
Some of them are pretty old, like Snow White's
Yeah.
was in the 30s.
Wow.
Sleeping Beauty and Snow White were with their 30s or 40s, and then Cinderella was a little bit after them.
That's right. Yeah.
So
I was going to say I'd love to talk
less
about
than 100.
Yeah, that's true. I was going to say as well, I'd love to talk about the Sasquatch some more, because I find him to be like Sasquatch is the one that I hope is real. Just because
same.
of Loch Ness Monster and Sasquatch, I would love for them to be real. Mainly because of the I don't know. It comes back to the idea that there's something magical about Sasquatch, even though it's if it was real, it's probably just an animal. But yeah, he's just been built up by culture, and like I think you've got the footage. What is that tape called? The famous Sasquatch footage. You've got a sticker of it on your
Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah, it looks like you've got a sticker of that on your mic arm there. Is that the correct one? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. It's got her boobs and everything.
Yeah. Oh, they reckon it was a female Sasquatch, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you think it's one creature, or do you think it's like a species?
I think it's a species.
Really?
I like the interdimensional kind of space for it, because number one, like it does not mean that it's not real or anything. Like when I say that, I know like a lot of like the flesh and blood people get really upset when you talk about it. About Bigfoot possibly being interdimensional, because that to them it makes it seem like fake or not real, like a ghost or something like that, which it's not. Like it's still like when it's here, it's physical, but but it can also go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's why we never see it,
Makes
apparently.
sense. Yeah.
But here in America, we have cave systems under us that go from east to west all over the place in every state. So, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
We can't survive in cave systems, humans.
No.
So like we wouldn't be if to travel along those unless they're developed, which is another thing that they talk about with the reptilian people,
That's right. The reptilian people. I was gonna say it makes me think a little bit of how we, supposedly we've only explored something like 1% of the ocean. I don't know what the actual number is, but apparently most of the ocean to us is completely unknown.
It's like 85% is
Really
undiscovered, yeah.
And the deeper you go, the weirder things get in the ocean, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So the thought of Megalodon existing is like a real thing. Like there's something that can be that big out there somewhere.
Wow.
And it just doesn't come to the surface.
Yeah.
I
could tell you so in the Maori folklore, they have, so how New Zealand is, well, 3, but it's mainly 2 islands. So in Maori folklore, there is the North Island is actually a giant fish that was fished up. You remember Maui from Moana?
Yep.
So that's like a real kind of folk, like a, I'm not sure, whether he was a real person or not, I'm not quite sure, but he is a sort of a figure in mythology. He's a bit like Hercules. He's done all these different sort of labors, and there was a book series you could read when I was a child that had like different stories. Like he went to very close to Prometheus. Actually, he went to the underworld and brought back fire. He have I told you the sun story about how he slowed down the sun?
No.
So this story is great. He so Maui had several brothers. I think maybe had 7 or 8 brothers, I think. And the folklore goes that the sun used to move across the sky, and the sun was a living creature. And the sun was too fast, so daytime was too short, so people couldn't get what they needed to get done during the day. So Maui and his brothers went to find where the sun would go to sleep at night, and it was a big hole, like a big cave or something that the sun would go to. And they set a trap, and then when the sun went to rise, they threw a big net over the sun, and they just pounced on him and just started beating the shit out of him. And they did so much damage to the sun that the reason the sun goes the speed that it does now is because it's still injured from the day that Maui and his brothers beat it up. And so that's the Maui and the sun that's paraphrased a lot, but that's the gist of the story. And then the fish of Maui is like he was out fishing. So the word for boat in Te Reo is waka. So they say the South Island is Maui's boat and the North Island is the fish that he brought up, because it vaguely sort of looks like a stingray if you kind of draw an outline of the North Island. And that was generally the picture. The sort of fish that was depicted was a big stingray. And the story there was that he went fishing. You know how like folklore characters kind of have their legendary weapon. Maui's one was it was like a hook made out of the jawbone of his ancestor or something. It was like a bone thing, and he punched himself in the face and made his nose bleed, and then he put that blood on the hook and threw it into the ocean as kind of bait. And then this gigantic fish, he sort of wrenched it up to the surface, and they had a big battle, and the fish was powerful, but so was Maui, and eventually he got it to the surface. And then the reason that the North Island is covered in so many more mountains than the South Island is because once he'd wrenched the fish to the surface, his brothers jumped on it and started cutting it up for the meat, and that's why it's full of valleys and mountains and everything, whereas the South Island is very, very flat compared to the North Island. And so a couple of little folklore stories for you there.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know any
They're
of
great
that.
stories, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember in Moana, he's pointing out his tattoos about all the things that he's done?
Yeah.
So pretty much all of those are actual stories that you can find about Maui online.
So he took an eel and he buried its guts, and then it sprouted
Yes.
a tree, and now we got coconuts?
Yeah, exactly. I actually don't remember that one, but I'm there was only a few. That might have just been a thing that he did. I think the ones that they turned into books that I read as a child, they sort of had to be, sort of long enough narratives to fill a book, but that certainly sounds like the sort of thing he would do.
Yeah,
That's right.
because that's one of the things that he says in his "You're
It is,
Welcome"
yeah.
song.
Yes,
So
yeah.
and it's funny because my daughter is really into that right now. She's 9 months, and we watch a movie with her every at least I think once a day or at night
Wow.
or whatever. And
Yeah.
she's really pays attention when Moana is on. And she's
Yeah.
transitioned through different movies. It was Trolls for a while, and then it was
Yeah.
Boss Baby, and Boss Baby is still something she likes.
Yeah.
But Moana. It wasn't, and then it was Encanto for a bit. But Moana
Yeah.
has been pretty consistent in the past couple of
Mhm.
weeks.
I
So
think I read somewhere that Moana has sort of really sort of out of nowhere become a real classic for people. Like it'll be the equivalent of like people from our age watching, I'm trying to think what Beauty and the Beast and all that kind of stuff. I think to a lot of
yeah,
kids now, stuff like Moana, Frozen,
Pocahontas.
yeah, it's all their kind of like this is going to be their classics in another 20 years when they're trying to show their kids Moana, and
Yeah.
who knows what their kids are going to be watching, eh?
Well, I mean, the there's not going to be any more innocent moms, that's for sure. That's a whole
Yeah.
different topic, though. If you know what
Yeah,
I
that's
mean.
right.
The
Yeah.
generation of OF chicks.
There's a great song by a comedian. I forget what her name is, but if you Google it, you can find it. The song is called "Don't Google Mommy," and it's like about her telling her children about some of the things that they would find of her online if they Googled her. And the tone of the song is like, "I'm not ashamed of these things, but you're just not old enough to see them yet." And it's a very funny song. Don't Google
That's
Mommy.
funny.
Yeah, it's a really good
That's
song.
hilarious. That's hilarious. Um, but what would you say is your favorite aspect about Sasquatch?
The Sasquatch. I think I I love the way that we've like sort of humanized it over the years, and it I think because in my mind I would like to think that the Sasquatch would be friendly if we encountered it and you could sort of
Mm-hmm.
hang out with it. Like, do you remember the Tenacious D movie where he meets Sasquatch?
Yes, yes,
That's
that's one of
exactly
my
what I want.
favorite movies.
Yeah. That's what I imagine would happen if I met Sasquatch, is he would just be my friend. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's just through like all the branding and T-shirts and marketing and everything. I have this great. I don't know. It'd be like meeting someone famous. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
a real sort of, yeah, Loch Ness and Sasquatch. I like to think would be friendly if we ran into them, but they probably wouldn't. They'd probably just be wild animals, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stories have been pretty scary, and then there's other stories that are like really like what the frick is the word that wholesome, I guess,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
protective in a way, and
yeah.
that's the Sasquatch that I would like to run into
Mm-hmm.
is is one of those ones. If I ever
Yeah.
do, I probably won't, but you never know.
You never know. I heard this
Has
great story. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, has there ever been any reports in New Zealand for like a Bigfoot kind of creature?
No, we have a moose that apparently did exist at one point, and every few years, somebody claims they saw one, but
Mm-hmm.
no one's ever been. Well, the thing about New Zealand is a lot of it is still bushland, which is not unexplored as such, but it's very dense, and so
Mm-hmm.
I think because we don't know and we can't, we think, oh, well, maybe it could be hiding. And so, like, I think there's this sort of hope that maybe there's something fantastic living in there. So, yeah, the moose, there is this sort of moose that everyone kind of is looking for. And then, what are the other cryptids? Allegedly, there was a sort of panther, like a big black cat that you could see in
Oh.
Canterbury, which is the region I live in. But I think it's people are pretty quick to try and debunk it, but I know that's one of the alleged cryptids you can see here. And then the other would just be the giant moa, which is like a massive ostrich. But those again, those things have been extinct for like, hundreds of years, but I think we still hold out a little bit of hope that they're still out there.
Yeah, I think a lot of us hold on to hopes that a lot of things are out there. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of cryptids for a lot of people, especially people that go out and look for cryptids. It's like a Santa Claus kind of effect. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. We
I
love the
think it's
idea.
I think it's almost like you know how when there are several things that people say kind of make your week more exciting, is one of them is having an office crush. Apparently that's, you're excited to go into work and you're sort of, when they text you or whatever, it's exciting. And then I think the other one is when you've got a really exciting parcel coming in the mail, like you've ordered something online and you get the little update, like it's, that's out for delivery today. And so like, I think believing that there's cryptids out there is a bit like that, and that, whether it is or not, is almost irrelevant. It's just like this sort of hope that this hope that it could be, I think, is what is exciting and keeps it sort of fresh for people. Yeah.
Yeah. On the same vein, when you're saying that, I realize that so I just bought a new truck this past weekend,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
at night before bed, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to wake up so I can drive it. And then
Yes.
I get in it and I'm driving it and I'm like so
Yeah.
happy, and then I get to work and I'm like, fuck, I have to work. And then all day at work I'm like, I can't wait to get done so I can drive my truck.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly it. That's the best, is when you go to sleep thinking like, oh yeah, tomorrow, like I just have to go to sleep for 8 hours, and then when I wake up, I get to, drive the new truck or whatever it is.
Oh
That's all
man.
it's yeah.
So one of my favorite closing questions
Yeah.
is are you finding fulfillment in everything you're doing? Like you got your podcast and your stand up. Are you
Hmm.
finding fulfillment in your life doing all that?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. It's very interesting to think about this, because if you were to break it down and write on paper, like, okay, you're making a living off the back of doing your comedy, quizzes, podcasts, etc. It's all various, various levels of paying. Like the podcast doesn't exactly make any money, but it's got, it's great for networking and everything like that.
Mhm.
But I think I'm the sort of person that once I achieve the goal, I then move the goalpost and I start looking at like what's next. So I think if I had to objectively look at what I've done and what I'm doing, I would be like, yeah, that's a hell of a few years, like a hell of a run. But it's so hard to appreciate when you're actually in the moment, right? Like I think right now, I
Yeah.
think there's so many more things I want to do, but I logically know just arbitrarily achieving this and this and this and this is not going to suddenly make me have this sense of inner peace. Like inner peace is going to have to come from, I don't know, meditation or therapy. I'm not entirely sure how you achieve it. So like I definitely I'm stoked about what I have done, but I also have this like there's so much more I still feel like I need to do. So it's a tentative yes, but I think if I was being logical about it, I would have to say, yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I've done so far.
Man, dope. I mean, I'm excited for you. One of our mutual friends, Rachel from Like Mother Like
Yeah, yeah.
Murder podcast, she loves your stand up.
Oh,
And
awesome.
yeah, so she made a post not too long ago in her story on Instagram, and I saw it and I was like, man, I haven't gotten the chance to check it out. I wish it wasn't this way, but I have like only such a little time when I get out
Yeah,
of
yeah.
work. I wish I had more time to consume people's content.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have 3 specials, correct? Am I
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
3 out there, yeah.
Yeah, so she definitely intrigued me into checking that out, and one of them recently came out
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yep,
Yeah.
Boxing Day last year, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so definitely,
Nice.
like, I'm looking at, like, there's not a lot of stand-up comedians that have even one special out, so if I'm judging it by that metric, I'm, like, in the top, the top 10% of comedians here, but, you know how it is. They're all self-produced, right? So it's like there's no bar to entry there. It's kind of just, do you have a friend that
Yeah,
has a
yeah.
camera? Great, yeah. But no, Rachel. Yeah, no, Rachel is really, really a sweetheart. And so, if you're listening, Rachel, shout out, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah,
Um, but anyways,
yeah,
so on that note, if you don't mind letting everybody know one more time where they can find you and your podcast.
yeah, absolutely. So, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute delight. It's been cool to catch up with you again and chat about ghosts and everything. So yeah, thank you for having me. Where can they find me? So if they go to, I think to plug my YouTube more than anything. That's where I upload clips pretty much every week, and that is at Taylor Ruddle Comedy. I've got the same tag on all my socials, so you can follow me on everything like that. But YouTube is the one I would recommend you go if you want to see, because free comedy special out there. I've got 3 that you can watch. And then my podcast is called Ruddle Me This, and I've got an episode with our very own Kevin here from it, which you could also go and listen to if you can't get enough of this dynamic duo.
Yes. So definitely go check him out, everybody. I would greatly appreciate it. I know he would. But
absolutely.
we should definitely do this again, and maybe
Yeah.
we can do
Do the
like
hot
a
ones.
round table or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So I really love your mind. I love your perspective and stuff, and talking
Likewise,
to you
man.
has been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
but for everybody listening, if you enjoyed today's show, you like all the other content, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. Those are the easiest and free ways to support the show and help it grow. If your podcatcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, you can leave one on the website where the weird ones are, podcast.com. That is also where you can buy some hot sauce, coffee, and merchandise, as well as protein powder, because I am getting into supplements, as I'm sure you guys are aware of by now. I've stated 100 times that I'm going to at some point, but I do now currently have chocolate protein on the website, and soon there will be others. So you can get all that stuff there. What else? I think that about
weird. What
is
about
the
weird
kit
coffee in the
caboodle.
morning?
Oh yes, weird Java in the morning.
Sorry, weird Java in the morning.
It's all good, man. Every morning at 9 a.m. At 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. I do it with my good buddy. Actually, oh shoot, nope. So this episode's gonna come out next week. So this Sunday is with my kids. So by the time you guys are listening to this, it will have already happened. So my kids are actually special guests this week on the morning show. So
hell yeah.
So, but anyways, you guys all know the drill. Question everything and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day.